update on the Sandbar Park, food trucks for the summer of 2025. Chris Bilo, the town's Parks and Rec Commissioner, is going to give that presentation. So Chris,
all right. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go back real briefly and then give an update to kind of how we got to where we are here in May 2025. Okay. So as you recall, back in November of 2024, we did a presentation. This was a few weeks after we had the bid results, and it's actually about a month after we did the bid results from the brick and mortar concept that the town worked on with Sam Fantuzzo and his team. As a result of that, those bid numbers that came in, and obviously the overall construction costs and payback, et cetera, that would go into that, the decision being made to not pursue the brick and mortar. And if you recall, there was basically 4 options at that time, really to kind of consider how to move forward. Option 4 is the direction that was chosen to sort of pursue, which was basically to look at a less costly option to provide seasonal food at Sandbar Park. As an example, food trucks. One of the things we had discussed kind of all along, even during discussions with the Fantuzzo team, there was a number of different opportunities, but it was pretty clear that option 1 from the start was to look at a brick and mortar type of a facility. So that's the reason that we went that path to start. This was always sort of another option that we knew may or may not have to ever sort of be pursued. So after that presentation to the town board in November, the Parks and Rec Department, starting in January, sort of began putting together, I'll call it a process or a plan of how this might work. Because obviously between January and summertime or June, while it's on a calendar of several months, from a scheduling standpoint, it's a very short time. So we started in January, kind of all agreed that a food truck system was probably going to be the best option for us, again, working under that time frame. And then sort of how we should best go about putting this process together. So the first thing that we did is in January created sort of a survey, short survey, where we sent it out to 26 different food truck vendors, just kind of asking for their input on what the operations from a schedule from June 25 through September of 25 might look like. We received back 14 responses out of those 26. We asked things like your availability, your scheduling, your commitment level, how committed you would be to this process, just so we had an understanding. But again, receiving the 14 initial responses was, I think, a good sign. So that brought us into February, where we began sort of a similar process as what we did with the brick and mortar concept, where only this time it was myself. I met with 8 different food truck vendors. They came into the office, we sat down, very casual conversation. Every one of them sort of brought something different to the table, not menu related, but just also ideas and concept-wise, kind of how this process might work. So that was a good discussion because it really sort of changed the thought process of how this may be structured as we move forward. What I think was our original and initial thought of what a schedule might look like from a consistency standpoint, we started to realize wasn't probably going to be feasible based on how food truck operations function between events and private businesses, etc. So we did that in the month of February, and then when we got into March, we ended up, again, it's a sort of similar process with our brick and mortar meetings. We ended up with 6 food truck operators who were, what I'll say, committed to the process, or committed to providing the service this year. So from there, then we created a Google Doc to be able to ask for their availability. Again, we are right in this March timeframe, right in the sweet spot of when these food trucks are starting to plan their season. Some of them were already pretty much committed, so their availability was less than others. But again, we didn't want to wait any longer than we could because they'd fill up, obviously, and we would be in a different boat. So did that through the month of March, sort of got the days and times, and again, that's where that discussion of consistency came in. We knew once we started this Google Doc from a calendar standpoint that we weren't going to have a consistent Friday night from 4 to 10 because it was difficult to be able to find food trucks during that time. We're providing a service there where we can't guarantee them X number of people. If it's a rainy, cold night in June, there may be nobody. If it's a beautiful 75-degree night, there could be 300 people. It's hard for a food truck vendor when we're not paying them to be there to turn down what I'll call paid game. So if they get a graduation party on that Friday night, they're going to commit to that. To the credit of the 6 food trucks that we were dealing with, they all were committed that once they put their name on that schedule, they were committed to it, even though they're not being compensated all the time. So even if something better comes up, they've given us their word that they'll honor their obligation. Once we got into April, we sort of had an initial schedule set where we went from June 1st through September 15th. Again, just based on what I'll call Rochester weather, that seems to be the easiest for us to be able to schedule. You do get the one-offs where we do have nice weather later in the season. We do have the ability to extend this. We get food truck operators so that if it goes well and we want to go a little longer, we can always extend it. We're not locked in, but we wanted to give the operators at least sort of some parameters. Also started a promotional campaign in regards to how this might look, how we'll roll it out. Obviously, getting this meeting here to present the concept to you guys. Also working with the food truck operators to sort of make sure and encourage that those folks are doing the same, that they don't just rely on the town to be able to promote it. They all have their own Facebook groups and social media following, etc. So they have to have some of that buy-in. The town installed picnic tables in the park, especially in the location of this area. We spread a number of them out as we see need. We'll either move them around or bring some more in, or at least we have tables down there now. And then once we reached May, we got into our final schedule after some shifting around of some dates. Created a promotional flyer that's been out on the website now for about a week and a half, just saying that the schedule is coming. We're going to have some flyers that are going to be hung up. Obviously, this presentation tonight, and then full-fledged sort of marketing campaign would start tomorrow. Everything is loaded and ready to go. As soon as the board gives us the good to go, we'll start that tomorrow. The way the schedule is sort of going to be rolled out is, again, because of the changing in sort of the structure of it, we're going to roll it out in 2-week blocks. So the first 2 weeks will start June 1st, and kind of go through Friday, June 13th. A list of the trucks, the times that they're going to be there. So this first schedule, and I feel pretty confident that this didn't change since I put it in this presentation. But it's kind of a little bit of everybody between all 6 vendors. So, like I said earlier, some have more dates than others. Some are only going to be there a handful of times. Again, that's just because they have other events that they're tied to. We will have some signage down there. We'll have a sign where the food trucks will be parked, which is in the same area that the restaurant was to be built. We'll have it with a QR code that will take you directly to this site or this page on the website. If you go to the Parks and Rec page on the website, there is a flyer right now that once somebody clicks on it, it will show that 2-week block schedule, so people will be able to see that in advance. We're going to reach out. There are 5 marinas that are on Rhinebeck Bay. We're going to be sending the information to them as well, so hopefully they'll encourage their boaters. Because one of the things we talked about with the food trucks is reaching out to the boating community. We obviously have a really nice new dock, and they will obviously be able to be a draw from the water. The trucks that are committed are the 6 that are listed there: Sandy's and Sweets, Rock City Sandwich, Melt Truck, Uncle Buck's, Tuscan Wood Fire Pizza, and Rex Sundays. So pretty regular and well, say, commonly known food trucks in there. And then I got this in here for future consideration. So as we met with, or as I was meeting with the food truck vendors, I let them know that 25 is sort of, I don't want to call it a pilot season, but it's, it's new for us. We've never done this. in this format. It may prove to be very successful. Truthfully, it might not be as successful as we all hope. Weather's going to be a huge driver of how this goes. I have no doubt that there's going to be an interest from the community. I have no doubt that there's going to be people in the park that are going to benefit from having these food trucks down there. But we may find at the end of this that maybe there's another option for us too. Again, go back to when we started this whole process with Sam and his team. One of the other concepts that we have discussed is what I'll say more seasonal based. One of the concepts that we've kicked around over the last several months is the storage container concepts, where we could actually have seasonal storage containers that sell. One would potentially get two on site, where one is a food option, and the second one could either be a snack or a beverage container. We would then look to obviously see if there's a potential vendor to be able to operate those, or those could be done internally, especially if it's a low-cost snack container. If it's an ice cream container, those are kind of things that we run a concession stand here at Miracle Field that aren't so far out of our scope. Food is a little different, but there might be an opportunity for a local vendor to be able to do this, especially knowing that it's seasonal. We've done some preliminary drawings down there. We can easily fit a couple storage containers down there, still keep plenty of green space, have tables, high-top tables, umbrellas, etc. Create a fun atmosphere, even have a small stage area set out potentially. But there is enough space for us to potentially have two food storage containers. A number of different ways you can go with these. We've started to look into it, made some contacts with some vendors that actually build these. So there's a number of different directions we can go, but truthfully, until we go through 2025 in this initial concept, kind of holding this in our back pocket to be able to see what the interest level is and how successful is in 2025 with food trucks. Questions?
I think this was a great presentation. I genuinely appreciate the creativity of what is possible down at Sandbar Park, because there's many people who are still very sad, disappointed about the Bayside not being there. And this is a step in the direction of bringing people together and being able to have a bike and hang out by the water. And your vision for what can be done in the future with the potential of having a drink or a bar-like facility, a food facility, very casual, lots of room for people that hang out, bring chairs, listen to music in the pavilion area, could really bring back the same vibe that was there before, and at clearly a fraction of the cost. So I like it. I think it has a lot of merit and a lot of potential, and could really be a nice place for people to congregate in the summer months.
I also think it's a great idea, and I applaud you for as Jen said, that creativity. One of the things that, as you got into talking about the seasonal storage containers, I think it's important that we look at something that is in your promotion, and that's that because this is not a structure that's permanent, we don't have a lot of the requirements and the stumbling blocks that we had with state agencies for the previous plan that we looked at.
Well, once again, Chris, I commend you on thinking outside the box when it comes to creativity, storage containers. I just had a couple of questions. I'm very familiar with 3 of these vendors, so I'm looking forward to visiting when they arrive. I noticed that there was no Saturday dates on here.
To be honest with you, John, I didn't bring the full seasonal schedule. There are some,
Okay.
but like I said at the beginning, when I started sitting down with them,
Right.
that's in food truck world. I learned that this is called like an open event, is what they're kind of doing for us. That's how food trucks originally kind of got started. They were showing up downtown and they're on street corners and those they call that open event. A lot of them don't do that now because there's a lot of overhead for them between hiring staff and supplies. So they commit themselves to either events or private parties. And it was actually fascinating to learn, because I thought, again, it's Rochester, it's a limited set number of events or activities going on. A lot of what they're doing now are private catered events, whether it's a graduation, wedding, a rehearsal dinner, or just a block party. So and most of those take place on Saturday night.
Yeah.
So it's tough for him, tough for these folks to sit across the table from me and say, I'd love for you to be there on Saturday night from 6 o'clock until 9 o'clock, but I can't promise you that you're going to have X number of people when they're going, well, I've got a party that's going to pay me for 500. Totally understand why they wouldn't.
Well, it could turn into them coming on Saturdays.
Could very well, and that's where they were great. We could find that there is a larger interest. I've also, I'll say, reserved the right to be able to sort of modify the schedule if we need to be. So that's why I think having things like the QR code that takes people directly to this. It's important for the community to understand how they get this information, that it's not possible for us to say just every Thursday night from 5 to 10, it just doesn't work.
Right.
So communication is going to be real big as we sort of share this information.
So the only other question I had was, is there a cost to the vendor, again, to rent space from the Sandbar?
To do this, we're not charging.
Great. Because I had talked to vendors before about some of their prices, and their response was, well, it costs us X amount of hundreds of dollars just to be here. So
The only thing
it's
that,
great news.
yeah, the only thing that we were very upfront with them, we said, again, truthfully, they're doing us sort of solid by coming in and doing this open event. So we said, we're not going to charge it for space. We're not going to put a permit for them. The only thing that we required them to do, like we do as anyone, is they complete a permit, so we have it, which automatically certificate of insurance is included, and they got to be up to date with New York Times. Which, again, we have 6 food trucks that are established that are.
Thank you.
Jenny?
Thank you. You answered my questions about insurance costs, so thank you.
Well, I'll be interested to see how this goes. Chris,
Me too.
I was, truth be told, last Friday, I think, I was garaging you with some videos and some pictures.
Oh, yeah.
I was down in Clemson, South Carolina, and there's a barbecue place down there, the Smoking Pig, and they, a couple of years ago, took their parking lot, because there was such a wait to get in to eat, that they put 3 of these storage containers, kind of 2 of them in like an angled thing, facing out, and then 1 on top. And it's unbelievable. They got a bar going on out there. They got, and it's. But we've looked at this, and I mean, some of the, you can see on the picture that that's a storage container.
Right.
That's they trick these things out like you wouldn't believe.
They're houses now.
They
Actually,
Yeah.
one of the food trucks, Rock City, I think it's Rock City, they actually convert, takes small storage containers, puts them on flatbed trucks. So it's a food truck, but it's a storage container.
Yeah.
And he brought them by for us to see. So there are some local options, but again, I've looked at, there's a couple national companies that do this. You can get 40-foot, 20-foot, you can get ones that open 3 windows, 5 windows, you name it. Similar to what you sent me, I've been to a number of these places where they're becoming more popular in destination areas, and it's seasonally for us. We don't have the ability to operate it, but it does give us the flexibility that if in February the department wanted to have an ice fishing tournament, we could open this type of a structure and sell hot dogs or hamburgers or hot cocoa or whatever. It gives us that flexibility.
And, Chris, you and I went through the brick and mortar, 3 or 4 rounds of this, and all the way along, like, this is tough because it costs money to build a municipal building. And we saw that, it was going to be $2 to $3 million. And by law, we have to recoup the taxpayer money on a bond for that, and it was going to cost the private restaurateur $20,000 to $25,000 a month in rent. nobody's gonna do that.
No.
I mean, that's a bankruptcy waiting to happen, so, I don't know, we haven't started pricing out things, permanent, non-permanent structures like a storage container. But my gut tells me that, you know, we got all the power down there, we got all the utilities ready to hook in. That, you know, you probably wouldn't even have to go into a bonding situation, you could get out of the parkland, trust fund. And then, you know, you talk about taking complexities off of we always knew we'd have to have a licensing agreement with a restaurant, private restaurants, whoever, that, you know, pays back the taxpayers. Now it'd be like, hey, you know, what do you want to do? You want to go seasonal? You tell us what you want to do, and if we agree as the town board to take that as revenue, they would be paying us. And I'm sure we'd be getting the money back for any amount of money that we put into put a storage container down there or whatever. So it's exciting, and I mean,
And that's why I think this summer this process is the right way to go about this, without trying to go down, take quite too much off at once. This gives us the time that we can at least introduce the concept and adjust and move forward.
in your presentation shows, and you said it's probably, when we knew that, you know, November, around Thanksgiving, this is not gonna happen, all right? It just is what it is. We got 20 bids. It was the heaviest number of bids we ever got on a municipal, you know, Wickslaw project, whatever you wanna call it. It's a $3 million building. So it wasn't some anomaly where we just got one bid, you know what I mean? So, once that died, you know, we knew that we can't, 5 months? I mean, what can we get down there to test it? And I think, you know, your presentation shows, I mean, you did yeoman work on this one. I mean, every single one. So,
Good group to work with.
yeah. Well, thanks.
I can't wait to see, I can't wait to see how many people are down there. I
Yeah.
can't wait to go and check out the scene and the vibe.